Hey guys, welcome back to the home and homestead. Today we'll be doing part 2 of a 3-part companion planting series. We are at an area that has 2 raised garden beds. There's a previous video if you want to watch how we built and set these up. But in this area we'll be doing strawberries, asparagus, and I also decided to do a 3rd variety of green onions as well. I'll be doing the parade bunching onion seeds in here, and I decided to do that because not only do they help deter the pests that were mentioned in the previous video, the part 1, but they also help to deter rabbits and deer, and I thought this might be helpful, especially for the strawberry plants. I'm not going to be planting the strawberries today. I did some starter plants, which you can see a video on as well. I'm going to give those plants a little more time to grow before I get them in the containers. But for today, I'll get the asparagus in the ground, and the asparagus will help loosen the soil, and I'll get these green onions in, and their scent helps to deter pests, as well as the rabbits and deer, like I just said. So let's get these asparagus and green onions in the soil here. The asparagus we actually pulled up from our vegetable garden. I had originally purchased 3-year-old male, well, majority male crowns. I believe they were Jersey Supreme asparagus, and so we dug them out of our main vegetable garden, and I'm going to place some crowns in these beds as well as elsewhere on the property. We did that so that we would be able to use all the square footage of our vegetable garden for planting and not have to worry about tilling and cultivating around asparagus, as well as the rhubarb, which we transplanted as well, as you'll see in the part 1 video. So I'm going to sort through the crowns and find some good ones to put in here. What I do is I'll plant them like I did in the vegetable garden. I'll do trench planting. I'll probably do maybe 2 trenches in the middle of each box and lay the crowns down with the head of the crown and then the roots, and then as soon as that roots end, I'm going to put another crown and put that down. The rule of thumb is to plant them 6 to 8 inches deep in a trench, and then have the bud spacing, or like the head of the crown, 12 to 18 inches apart, and that works well because the roots are usually about a foot long or so. So if they're a little shorter, I'll just get them in there tighter and see how they do. The important thing is to keep them moist and get them covered with a few inches of soil. I want to sort them quickly and get them into the soil. So let's see how these crowns did. I placed them in some Pro Mix to try to keep them as moist as I could. I knew the top layer would probably be dried out, which this is a little dried out. I kind of placed them to the side. See, these are really nice big crowns. Looks good. I'll kind of separate them out. Really big crowns I'll put elsewhere, but if it's a nice smaller crown, I'll put them in here. I'll see if I can find a good. So this is about the size they were when I purchased them. And I had laid them out, spread out like this, but you can also just lay them out horizontally, then have the next one start here and go on down the line. I'm trying to find crowns that they don't have a hollow feeling to them. So we have the asparagus sorted. I have some smaller crowns here, and I moistened them with some water. And the larger crowns I have here under some soil, and I moistened that as well. And up here are some that are just kind of dried out and hollow, and I'll probably end up discarding those. Not too bad of a loss from digging them out of the garden. So let's get these into their new home. We have a 6 to 8 inch deep trench, and I will place the crowns on their side. We'll go end to end. So I'll place one down here, and where the root ends there, I'll place another, and I'll get as many as I can in here. And I'll cover it and make a second trench and see how these do. In the garden, I was very particular of how I laid them out and proper spacing and everything, and I I think these will probably still do just fine. They're a pretty hardy perennial. At least they have been for us. So for asparagus, you let them grow and they'll produce little spears like you see in the store, and you harvest them. And then when they're done with the growing season, they'll produce these fern-like growths. And you'll just leave those go. And in the fall, when they turn kind of brown and dry out, then you can cut them down and discard them off the property. If you leave them on site, sometimes you can attract some pests that are specific to asparagus, so it's best just to get rid of them. And that's what we've done. This one actually has one growing. If you can see that. And they just keep producing year after year, usually around June, depending on your zone. This one has a little one growing too. Kind of stick that in there. Okay. So you have 2 trenches, 2 rows of asparagus in here. Right in the middle. And I'm planning to do, when the strawberries get a little bigger, I'll kind of put them in here, the front and back. Let's get the other bed planted. So I have the asparagus 2 trenches planted in both of the raised garden beds, and I have them watered real nice. So now we'll move on to the 3rd variety of green onions that we'll be planting this year, the parade bunching onion. And these just go down 1/4 inch in the ground, and they take a couple months to harvest. Since I'm doing 2 beds, I'll probably just plant most of them today. I'm doing stagger planting on a different variety in the other raised beds from part 1 of the series. So for the green onions in these boxes, I'm going to put them along the front and the side, and if I can, the back and the side closest to us. That I mentioned earlier, with the deer and rabbit repelling capabilities, I want them on the perimeter of these beds. These are pretty big seeds. They look like little black pebbles almost. So we'll just put them in the ground and cover them up. You can get quite a few along here. About 3 inches apart or so. The green onions have been planted. I did 2 rows of the seeds along the front, and then I did the perimeter as well. Give everything a nice water. And I'll get the strawberries in later, once those starters are a little bit bigger. I hope that these companion plants work well together as predicted, and they're all plants that kind of come to maturation at different times. They have the green onions, they'll be in a couple months. The asparagus will start sprouting out any minute now once they get used to their new location here. And strawberries are kind of early summer. And then late in fall, the asparagus will have the nice looking ferns. So hopefully we'll have a nice long production time in these boxes with some fruits and vegetables that we like to eat and preserve. I'll do some drying of green onions, maybe do some green onion pesto this year. I'll try to do some videos on all of that. I like to pickle the asparagus, and I freeze that as well. It freezes really nicely. You can roast it later in the winter and have asparagus from your garden then. So now we'll do the final stage of getting some ground cover on here. Again, I'll be using straw. That's good to do. Helps keep the soil moist, and it prevents birds and other critters from eating up the seeds, and it helps cover it so that grass and weeds and things won't grow as ferociously, hopefully. We have the straw over the top of the beds here, and once I plant the strawberries, perhaps I can show you them in the boxes as well. Strawberries are helpful because they attract insects and pollinators such as bees and butterflies, and also they have really nice looking flowers that are kind of nice to look at by themselves. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing, and if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. See you next time. Take care.